So I have a question. It seems, contrary to process improvement, put your best people on, tell them if there's work to do, then do it. We're expecting them to find other things to do and they run out of work because they're so good.
Yeah. Now, if that's a system constraint, how often is that going to happen? If the market will take more than we can give them, are they going to ever run out of work here?
They should.
What would cause them to run out of work?
Downturn in the market.
Buffer inputs. So what are you trying to manage?
The buffer.
Constraint or the buffer?
The buffer.
The buffer. That's it. The system has to feed that buffer. Now let's for instance, let's look at an automotive assembly facility.
That what?
They don't make anything. Very little. Toyota makes motors and stuff here in
West Virginia.
But they make them in Georgetown too. But most automotive assembly facilities don't make the component parts in that facility. They simply put it all together and put some people on the line. All right. So if you have a drum, an operation that is actually that auto assembly line's constraint, then you have to ensure that all that work, the components are flowing through, and that work center never is able to sit idle. Do automobile production facilities, assembly plants ever sit idle? Yes. Darn straight they do. For weeks and weeks at a time. Well, what do they do at that time? Refuel. They get ready for the next run. Okay, so even then, you're going to be doing something in that drum that will be productive for the next model year. Okay? Or taking vacation because it's a forced vacation in those 2 weeks. Whatever it is. All right, Andre, get that?
I understand. Just explain the work for me.
Okay, that's what we're getting. All right.
Well, I think you just answered. So the drum's not always the constraint. Just in this case, the drum is the constraint.
The only reason the drum wouldn't be the constraint is because it's outside the market, outside the system for the vendor. So it's.
But it's an internal constraint and it's the drum.
So in our T diagram, that's why it was drawn as the constraint that's from.
What if it's a policy constraint? Then what happens?
Then policy constraint. Only so and so people can do certain things. What do? You want to make that bigger? You want to make fewer people able to do that work? No. You want to change the policy constraint to facilitate the throughput. Remember what throughput is? The rate. So it's got a time component built in. Yep. The rate that we can create sales. So we want to, if it's a policy constraint, you want to address the policy constraint to improve TI and OE in the proper ratio.
So that's just basically a policy change.
Yeah. All right. So now we've got a rope. And where's the rope going to?
Buffer.
Goes from the buffer to
The operating thing.
The drum. I mean the
Operating.
the gating operation.
Okay. Backwards.
when we did this before, you said that it says the drum is the pace that the market sets its customer demand.
Okay.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. If the market is the constraint. But in this example I've drawn on the board, the market will take more. If the market's a constraint, we can't sell all we can produce, right?
Right.
So I don't have an
An
internal
external.
constraint.
So that's an external constraint.
Okay.
But if the market will consume what I can give, a Prius, the worldwide market will buy more than what Toyota can produce. Something inside the factory or inside that system that makes Priuses is the constraint. Now it's actually the battery, that battery manufacturing facility. So there's an internal constraint, and that's the drum for the system. What's a car? An Envoy. The market won't buy all we can. The market's the constraint. So the market's the constraint. We will set a buffer maybe here or a little bit further downstream so that we can change the color or the interiors or whatever kind of package we want to put it in, and then just let it flow through the rest of the way. So the market would be the constraint. The buffer would be somewhere before that, maybe immediately, maybe a little earlier, depending on where we can. Right? Y'all wrote this term down earlier. Make sure you know it. Delayed differentiation, so that you can differentiate as close to the market as possible, as far downstream as possible.
A good example of that would be the plant Toyota in Georgetown. They make two things. They basically make the Camry, and they also make the Venza. And when it's going through the market, or it's going through the assembly line, it's like every 6 car is a Venza as opposed to the other 5 that are the Camrys, because that's the market.
Right.
So that they can produce what the market is requiring.